The summoning from nowhere, wisps of clouds begin to form in the clear moonlit sky. In a few short moments, the sky is filled with dark, ominous clouds that completely block the moon's pale light. Your bedroom is bathed in quiet darkness as you lie, sleeping lightly. Something rouses you, and your eyes open sleepily to be met by a soft blue glow reflecting from the wall. Slowly you turn your head until you can see the source of the light. You take a quick breath as you see that the light is emanating from a shimmering circle suspended over your bed. As you begin to look at the light, a darkening appears in its centre. The darkening gradually materializes into a form you suddenly recognize as the Codex of Ultimate Wisdom. The last time you saw such as this was beyond the circle of stones in the nearby woods. That prior occasion marked the quest that forever changed the course of your life. You stare at the light as it begins to diminish and finally wink out. Something falls softly onto the bed. Reaching out, you turn on the light at your bedside. There, lying before you, is an amulet. You hesitantly reach for it, gripping it tightly in your hands. Your finger automatically traces over the familiar etching on its surface. Finally a sign from Britannia. It has to be. It could be nothing else. Jumping from the bed, you hastily pull on some clothes. That's a good thing. With a few long strides, you cross the room to stand before a glass case sitting on a shelf. Visible beneath the glass, resting upon a velvet cloth, is the Ankh, the symbol of your avatarhood. Reverently, you open the glass case and remove it. If you think what you think is happening, then you may have need of this. You open the door to your bedroom and step out. Hesitating, one hand on the door, you look back, wondering if you will ever return. Shaking your head of these thoughts, you pull the door closed and leave the house. With the aid of an occasional moonbeam piercing the dark cloud cover, you head for the circle of stones near the willow tree in the nearby woods. Strange shadows cast by the moonlight filter down to the treetops as thoughts of the past race through your mind. Your attention is returned to the present as you see just ahead the circle of stones. Often have you come here and sat for hours at a time, hoping to once again see the shimmering blue door that would allow you to return to Britannia, to those whose friendship has come to mean so much, but never has the blue door appeared. Less frequently you came until finally, sadly, you gave up altogether. With renewed hope, you stand before the circle of stones, the Ankh in one hand and the amulet in the other. Minutes slip by and nothing happens. Impatience turns to anxiety. The gate must open. The mystical arrival of the amulet could mean nothing else. Long do you stand there until the amulet slips from your grip and falls within the circle of stones. While you stare dejectedly at the amulet lying within the circle, you notice a blue shimmering in the air above the amulet. Looking down at the Ankh in your hand, you see it is also enveloped in a soft blue glow. Carefully you place the glowing Ankh beside the amulet. Instantly a shimmering blue door springs up. With heart-beating rapidity, you step into it. The arrival. That's me. Your senses are jerked from their momentary disorientation by a blinding streak of lightning that strikes with a thunderous crash no more than 100 feet from you. You are standing in a clearing surrounded by dark and forbidding forests. Overhead, roiling black clouds fill the sky while thunder and lightning continue to crash around you. Britannia. It must be Britannia. Something is wrong. Instead of the sense of elation expected upon returning here after all these years, you are overcome with a foreboding sense of wrongness. "My friend!" shouts someone from behind you. A familiar voice from the past causes you to whirl about. Racing towards you is Shamano, someone you thought you might never see again. Strongly grasping your hand, he exclaims, "We were afraid the summoning mode would fail. It is nigh impossible to use any magic without invoking the intervention from Blackthorn. Let us not tarry, for the summoning has surely not gone unnoticed." Trusting your friend's judgment, you hold your many questions until a safer time. Hastily you retrieve the amulet and Ankh that lie at your feet, but before you can move, the very darkness about you begins to swirl and change. 3 shapes begin to materialize in the murky gloom. "Shadowlords!" hisses Shamano through clenched teeth. Quickly he draws his sword and moves between you and the barely discernible shapes. The foremost apparition traces a pattern in the air with a wispy forefinger. An ebony black arrow solidifies before it and hangs suspended for a moment. Then with a flick of its hand, the Shadowlord casts the glowing bolt at Shamano. The arrow strikes him full in the chest. Dropping his sword, he sinks to the ground, lines of pain and something worse etched into his face. The dark forms close in around you. At your feet, Shamano's body convulses in pain, but not a sound escapes his lips. Without warning, the amulet tightly gripped in your hand emits a bright blue glow. Upon seeing the amulet, the Shadowlords shrink back. The wispy shadows start to swirl and fade back into the inky darkness from whence they came. Shamano lies upon the ground, body twisted in agony, the dark arrow protruding from his chest. A normal arrow could not cause such pain, it must be the evil enchantment with which it was created. Realizing it must be removed, you jerk the arrow from Shamano's body and hurl it with all its might. The air about the arrow crackles as it flies into the darkness. Shamano's body relaxes. Inspecting the bloody wound, you notice it has already begun to fester from the foulness with which the bolt was conjured. We'll find Yallo. It's but a short walk to the east. With a grim determination, you help Shamano to his feet and half carry him out of the clearing and eastwards through the forest. The story. Within a short time, the soothing sounds of a lute being masterfully played can be heard through the forest ahead. Rounding a bend in the path, you see a dim light emanating from a small hut nestled among the trees. Approaching the hut, you loosen an arm around Shamano and knock on the heavy wooden door. The lute playing stops abruptly to be replaced by the muffled clinking of metal. "Who goes there?" demands a familiar voice from within. Leaning wearily against you, Shamano mutters, "Open the door, you son of a goat, before I donate all of my blood to decorate your doorstep." The door jerks open to reveal the form of Yolo standing framed within the doorway. Reaching out to help Shamano, Yolo turns to you with a grimace. "My friend, thou art a sight for sore eyes. I see that Shamano as usual has been unable to stay out of trouble." His casual remarks cannot mask his deep concern as he helps Shamano to a bed carefully tensed to his wound. After seeing Shamano, Yolo fills 2 mugs with a foaming broth and beckons you to a coarse wooden table next to the warm hearth. "'Tis good to see thee again after these many long years, my friend. It seems thy summoning did not go unnoticed. From the looks of Shamano's wound, I would say thou dost now know of the Shadowlords." You recount to Yolo the events of your arrival, but your patience giving out, a flood of questions erupt from you. "Slowly, my friend," Yolo smiles. "Make thyself at ease, and I will tell thee of the bitter events that have brought us to these dark times. Not long after thy departure, Lord British and the most prominent wizards of Britannia gathered at his castle, and called a meeting of the Great Council. Among the acts of the council was the sealing of the dungeons that lie beneath Britannia in hopes of entombing the foul denizens that dwell within. Some creatures still manage to escape, but their eyes are unaccustomed to light. They rarely roam the countryside by day, but wary must be the traveller be at night. Another act of the Great Council, and by far the most difficult, was to raise the Codex from the depths of the abyss. The influx of the combined magical power of the Great Council disrupted the very bowels of Britannia. Where once was the abyss, now stands an immense mountain, crafted from the molten lava that spewed from it. Unbeknownst to the Council, our new and glorious mountain left an enormous void over which all Britannia rests. Some speculate that the dungeons may reach into this underground void at their deepest levels. It is believed that the underground has become a vast breeding ground for creatures who have grown into horrors far worse than their original forms. A band of adventurers chanced upon a tunnel beneath the river that flows through Spiritwood, where one of these caverns collapsed, opening a passage to the underworld. They returned, weary and bewildered, with tales of creatures that mount the dark air and others that shake the ground. Lord British was intrigued by these tales and gathered an entourage of stalwart fighters to accompany him into the underworld. But his party was overwhelmed by the tremendous number and power of these creatures, though they fought valiantly. Panic erupted throughout Britannia when the sole survivor of the expedition returned with a small parchment upon which was recounted the tale of their dread journey. Yolo pauses momentarily as he reflects upon these dark thoughts. Blackthorn, a trusted but ambitious subject, took over the ruling of Britannia to calm the ensuing chaos. This we accepted until the Shadowlords appeared. They corrupted Blackthorn in some manner unbeknownst to us, and Blackthorn's reign is now one of oppression and tyranny. Through him, the meaning of the virtues has been corrupted to serve the self-righteous. Shamano and myself and others, thou hast known, have been declared outlaws by Blackthorn's regime, and we must skulk around as common criminals. We keep distance between ourselves so that we cannot all be rounded up in one fell swoop. But this cannot go on forever. Blackthorn and those hellish Shadowlords are bleeding Britannia. Rule must be restored to Lord British if he still lives. The gravity of the matter compelled us to risk a meeting. We arrived at the only possible answer, attempt to summon thee, my friend, to aid us in our quest to discover the fate of Lord British. The risk was great, for no use of strong magical power goes unnoticed by the Shadowlords, but we felt there was no other choice. Shaking off the gloom of his tale, a jovial glint returns to Yolo's eye. He nods in Shamano's direction and says, "But since thou art here, my friend, and hath naught else to do, I'm sure, what say we nursemaid this poor excuse for an adventurer back to health, and then embark upon our quest? If life still breathes within Lord British, we shall restore him as the rightful ruler of Britannia. Yeah, let's go find Lord British. Let's get rid of this Blackthorn character.